Hi there, welcome to this lesson on substitution. The last lesson we had a look at a wee bit of an introduction to it, and in this one I want to just continue a little bit, make the expressions a little bit more challenging so that you can have a bit more practice on it. So we've got some examples here, and we're going to have a look at substituting values into algebraic expressions. So these expressions typically might be in terms of a formula. It might be when we're dealing with a little bit of mathematics where we're putting together different algebraic sentences, and then all of a sudden we need to choose values for x and y. We discover that we can replace them with numbers, and we need to be able to do that. So this is why we're practicing this particular skill. So if you're wondering where these expressions come from, they've just been kind of made up to examples of what you might find later on down the road. Okay, so in this particular case we're told that x is a value of 3 and y is a value of 5. Now remember, when we're substituting into an expression, the first thing you're going to do is write down the expression you're given, y minus x. The second thing you're going to do is not work out the answer, but you're then going to rewrite the expression, and you're going to replace the y letter with the number 5, and you're going to replace the x letter with the number 3. You're going to keep any other things the same. So we've got subtraction. I'm going to put a wee equal sign at the beginning to show that at the moment this is the values are equal here. And we can straight away, in this case, say 5 subtract 3 is 2. So that work calculation is not difficult. Have a look at number 2. What do you reckon with that? We've got 3xy. Everything's together. It's not clear the operations until you remember that if there's no operations, that's operation signs between them, then we've got multiplication. So it's always remembering in algebra that if the numbers and letters are right next to each other, then we're dealing with multiplication. So the 3 here will be 3 multiplied by x is 3 and y is 5. So we can write all that out. Do the calculation in one go if you want, or in two. 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. So you could say 3 times 3 is 9. I've still got to multiply by 5. So my answer is 45, or you could do that in one go. Okay. Then we're dealing with slightly more complex things down here in 3 and 4. The other thing that I showed you in the last lesson is that sometimes, particularly when there's things multiplying or other things going on, it's sometimes good to actually use a bracket instead of a multiplication sign. So what I've done here is I've rewritten the expression. Instead of the letter y, I've put an empty bracket. Instead of the x, I've put an empty bracket. But notice that the 4 is just in front of the bracket here, and the 2 in front of the bracket here. It still means multiply, okay? And what that does is it keeps the shape, and then if we drop 5 into it for y, and if we drop 3 in instead of x, then what it does is there's less multiplication signs going around, okay? And that's quite a good thing sometimes. So the 4 and the 5 still multiply to 20, and the 2 and the 3 multiply to 6, and we've still got a subtraction. And that's our order of operations. We always do multiplying calculations first. And the other good thing about the bracket system is that you notice that the 4 and the 5 are close together, and the 2 and the 3 are close together. I always think that if I were to rewrite that, watch me rewrite this with the x sign. So we would have 4 times 5 minus 2 times 3. They're all spread out, and it's easy to make a mistake as to the order of things because there's always a sign, an operation in between each number. The reason why I like the brackets is that you notice that there's no sign between the 4 and the 5 and the 2 and 3. It brings them closer together, and it reminds you that they're actually, you have to do something that they're more important. They're closer together, and there's still that one gap with the minus sign that's in there, which is easy to then leave till the end. So we've got, what have we got? We're leaving 20 subtract 6 is 14. There we go. And the last one here, we've got an x squared term, x squared plus y minus 6. If I wanted to put brackets in, I could do x bracket squared plus a bracket minus 6. So that's the shape of it. I've got two numbers to pop in here. X is 3 and y is 5. Okay. Now remember the wee squared sign. That's really important to keep. It's not just 3, it's 3 squared, which is 9, plus 5 minus 6. and there's no order of operations. Stuff adding and subtracting is the same level of importance. 9 add 5 is 14, subtract 6 is 8. Okay, so just wee things to remember here. So what I've got on the next screen is I've got some questions for you to have a go at. So what I'd like you to do is to pause the video just in a moment and work through these questions as far as you can using the techniques that I was demonstrating there and what you already know. So in each case, write down the expression that you've got, another line with substituting the number in, and then work out the answer. Pause the video, and then if you let it run again, I'll go over the answers and make sure that we agree with these things. Okay, so stop, have a go at these, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at these questions, and I'm going to show you my answers to them. So what I've tried to do is to kind of write in the kind of full solutions so that you can see what your work. It's not just about the answer, remember, it's about putting in the working. You'll notice that sometimes I put in multiplication signs and sometimes I put in brackets just to vary it. You can do whichever one that you prefer. And of course it gets a wee bit trickier down in question 4, so make sure that you've got all the answers correct, and if you had to change it then do so, but make sure you understand why. Okay. Okay, moving on then, if you're happy with that, let's try these questions here. Okay, now again we're introducing more squared terms, and we've got fractions going on here. You see all the fraction lines and then the fraction multiplications. Okay, so remember that just means divide. We have to do a little bit beforehand in each case, and use your fraction calculations. So that's quite good. I'll just show you H here. In fact, let's do G, and we'll see a half C minus B. That just means that the half is a multiplier. So you've got a half. Now the brackets are good for this. When we can say, okay, we've got a half times or multiplied by C. In this question here, C is 8. Subtract B is 1. So that's the idea of the half in front of the letter, just means a half of 8. Half of 8 is 4. So my next line would be 4, subtract 1, so the answer would be 3. Okay, so there's a wee freebie there. Have a go at these other ones, and again I'm going to put the answers up in a moment. So pause it so you get a chance to work through yourself, and then you can unpause it and we'll have a look at the answers. Okay, so here are some of my answers here. There's the answers for question 5, hopefully that you agree. And I left a few blanks. I just want to go over these with you in case you weren't sure. So it's question 6, first few. Question 6E is B plus C over A. So B is 1, and I'll make that green so they're all the same. 1 plus C is 8. And then we've got our dividing line, and A is 3. So when we've got a fraction, we've already got a calculation on the top or the bottom. Do that first. 1 add 8 is 9, divided by 3. 9 divided by 3 is, so the answer is 3. In F, we've got B plus 9. Well, B is 1, and we've still got add 9, divided by C minus A. C is 8, subtract A is 3. So we've got two calculations to sort out. First of all, 1 plus 9 is 10, divided by 8 minus 3 is 5, and our answer, 10 divided by 5, is 2. You might be tempted to try and do some of that in your head. I would encourage you not to. It's not just about you saying I can get the correct answer, but it's about you being able to explain how you got that answer. Okay, I've already done G, so I'll just quickly say we've got half of C minus B. C is 8, and we're subtracting 1. We know that half of 8 is 4. Subtract 1 is 3. And with H, hopefully you got that one. We've got a quarter of C, so it's a quarter of C. Add A, which is 3. And we've got 3 lots of B, which is 1. A quarter of C, sorry, is 8. So I've got my different letters that I'm swapping in there. A quarter of 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2. I'm adding 3, and 3 lots of 1 is 3. So that's me got my values sorted out. 2 add 3 is 5, add 3 is 8. So my answer there is 8. hopefully they make sense. Okay, I'm just going to bring up the answers to question 7. I just took a bit of space here because they take a bit more working out. So they're similar to the ones we just did in question 6. And hopefully they all make sense. Okay, so if you got all these correct, well done. There's a wee challenge coming up again for you to do it in a different video, so make sure you have a go at that as well. Okay.